From Briefcase to Backpack Part 1. The Briefcase, the weight of stability. The morning sun hits the mahogany desk at exactly 6:47 a.m., 17 minutes before the alarm. Robert Chen doesn't need the alarm anymore. 55 years old, and his body has learned the rhythm of corporate time like a second heartbeat. He sits up slowly. His wife, Margaret, is still sleeping. She stopped waking with him 3 years ago, around the time he was promoted to senior vice president. The promotion came with a corner office on the 42nd floor and the understanding that mornings would begin earlier. The bedroom is exactly as it should be. Cream-colored walls, mahogany furniture matching the decks downstairs, a framed photo of their home in Malibu from 1998, when they bought it for $820,000. That same home is worth $3.2 million now. They never renovated it. They just waited. Robert moves to his walk-in closet. 7 identical suits hang in order. Navy charcoal, gray, navy charcoal. Wednesday is charcoal. He selects it with the certainty of ritual. His leather briefcase sits on the top shelf, the one he bought in 1995 when he was hired at Goldman Sachs. It's worn now, slightly cracked along the edges, but that's the point. This briefcase is a symbol. It says, "I have been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing." He places his laptop inside. 3 folders. One marked Q4 strategy, one portfolio reviews, one marked retirement projections. Everything organized, everything known. The drive to the office takes 42 minutes. He's timed it 1,000 times. Traffic on the 405 is predictable. The Starbucks on Wilshire is exactly 14 minutes from his office. He gets the same order, Americano, 1 sugar, no cream. The barista, a young man named Kevin, probably 22, knows his order before he speaks. The usual, Mr. Chen. The usual, this is the texture of his life. The usual, everything repeating. Everything compounding. The question, the office smells like money. Not literally, but the air conditioning is pristine. The carpet is immaculate. The floor-to-ceiling windows offer a view of the entire city compressed into a distance. From the 42nd floor, the city looks orderly, manageable. His assistant, Diana, is already at her desk. She's been with him for 8 years. She doesn't make much money, maybe $65,000 per year, but she's building. She has a 401a. She's saving for a down payment on a condo in Culver City. She's following the formula. Morning, Mr. Chen. Your 9:15 with the institutional investors is confirmed. The Q4 numbers are looking strong. Thank you, Diana. He walks into his office. The desk is almost empty. Just a laptop, a phone, and a framed photo. Margaret and him in 1995, the year they got married. He was 28. She was 26. Both of them fresh out of good schools, ready to climb. They did climb, methodically. 1 promotion every 4 to 6 years. Each promotion came with a salary bump, a bonus increase, and an implicit understanding. You're on the right path. Keep going. Their friends from Stanford are now heads of departments, partners at law firms, CFOs at tech companies. They're all living in the same neighborhood. Their kids go to the same private schools. They talk about renovations and vacation homes and the steady accumulation of zero-risk wealth. The 9:15 meeting goes smoothly. Institutional investors want stability. They want to know that their money is in the hands of someone who has been doing this for 30 years. Robert gives them that confidence. His presentation is flawless. His data is impeccable. His projections are conservative but optimistic. He says things like, market volatility is a feature, not a bug. Diversification across sectors remains essential. The long-term horizon is the only horizon that matters. They nod. They believe him. They give him $50 million to manage. By 11:30, he's back at his desk. Lunch will be a salad from the restaurant downstairs. He'll eat it while reviewing portfolio performance. The afternoon will bring a conference call with the London office. By 6 p.m., he'll be in his car driving home on the predictable 405. But at 11:47 a.m., his phone buzzes. A text from his daughter, Sophie. "Dad, can we talk tonight? I have something to tell you." He stares at the text for longer than necessary. Sophie is 22. She graduated from UCLA last year with a degree in communications. He'd wanted her to get an MBA. She'd wanted something else. They'd compromised on communications. A degree that's practical but flexible, as the admissions counselor said. She'd moved back home after graduation. The plan was clear. Live at home for 1 year, save money, then get a job at a media company or advertising agency. Build the foundation. Start climbing. Instead, she'd been spending her days in her bedroom, making videos. He types back, "Of course. See you tonight." But his stomach feels tight. The gift of time dinner is at 7:15 p.m. Margaret has made salmon and asparagus. The meal they eat on Wednesdays and Saturdays, alternating with chicken and vegetables on Mondays and Thursdays. The schedule isn't written down, but Margaret has maintained it for so long that it's become invisible. Sophie sits across from them in the dining room. She looks tired. Not unhealthy tired, but the tired of someone who's been thinking about something for a long time and is finally ready to say it. Robert sets down his fork. So, what's the news? Sophie takes a breath. Margaret reaches over and touches her hand. I'm leaving LA, Sophie says. I'm going to move to New York, and I'm not going to get a job at an ad agency. Robert feels the slight contraction in his chest that means something is wrong. What are you going to do? I'm going to create content full-time, Sophie says. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I've been building an audience for the last year, and I've hit 300,000 followers. I'm starting to get sponsorship offers, real money, and I think I can do this. The silence sits between them like a third person at the table. Robert doesn't raise his voice. That's not his style. Instead, he speaks carefully, the way he speaks to junior analysts who are making mistakes. Sophie, I appreciate your creativity. I do. But building a following on social media is not a career. It's a hobby that feels like a career because you're getting attention. It's not a hobby, Sophie says quietly. Last month, I made $8,000 from sponsorships alone. This month, I'm projected to make $12,000. By year-end, I'll probably make $100,000, says. Robert sets down his fork. $100,000? Sophie, that's not stable. That's not sustainable. What happens when the algorithm changes? What happens when people stop watching? Then I'll adapt, Sophie says. I'll build a new audience. I'll find a new platform. That's the whole point. I'm not locked into one company or one income stream. If one thing stops working, I have others. You're 22 years old, Robert says. You don't have a 401(n). You don't have health insurance. You don't have the stability to take risks like this. Sophie's eyes are steady. You had stability because you were born into a world where that stability existed. You could work for one company for 40 years because pensions existed, because housing was affordable, because the rules didn't change. The rules changed, Dad. You built your wealth in a system that doesn't exist anymore. Margaret looks between them. She's always the peacemaker. Maybe let's hear the whole plan? Sophie nods. I'm going to move to Brooklyn. I've found a shared apartment for $200 a month. I'm going to document my journey as a creator. I'm going to monetize YouTube, TikTok, sponsorships, and eventually courses. Within 2 years, I want to have 6 figures in net worth. Within 5 years, I want to have enough passive income to fund whatever I want to do next. Robert stares at his salmon. It's getting cold. He stares at it because if he looks at his daughter, he might say something that cannot be unsaid. Your mother and I didn't have options, he says finally. We had one path forward. We took it. We were lucky it worked. But that luck came from discipline, from stability, from saying no to risks. No, Sophie says. Your luck came from being born in 1968, when housing was affordable and jobs were plentiful, and one income stream could sustain a family. I'm born in 2001. The rules are different, and I'm choosing to play the game as it exists now, not the game that existed for your generation. The conversation ends there, not with agreement, but with the acknowledgement that they're speaking different languages. After dinner, Robert goes to his study. It's wood-paneled, lined with books he hasn't read, investments, in a sense. The room smells like old leather and decisions made long ago. He opens his laptop and does something he's never done before. He types his daughter's name into YouTube. *Sophie Chen. There's a channel. He clicks on it. The first video is titled, I quit my job search to become a creator. Here's my plan. He watches it. For 23 minutes, he watches his daughter sit in front of a ring light in her bedroom and explain her strategy with more clarity and precision than he's heard from most MBA students. She talks about audience building, platform diversification, content calendars, sponsorship negotiations, tax implications, reinvestment strategies. She's thought about this. Seriously thought about it. The view count shows 127,000 views. The comments are filled with people asking how to do the same thing. By the end of the video, she's set out a roadmap. Month 1-3, build audience to 500K. Month 3-6, hit monetization thresholds. Month 6-12, generate $50K in revenue. Month 12-24, scale to $200K in annual revenue. Year 2-5, build 6 figures net worth. Year 5, create whatever I want. It's ambitious, it's not his strategy, but it's not incoherent either. Robert closes the laptop and sits in the darkness of his study. For the first time in 30 years, he feels afraid of something he doesn't understand. The speed Brooklyn is not what Robert imagined when Sophie said she was leaving. He'd pictured gentrification, artisanal coffee shops, struggling artists. He was half right. But what he didn't picture was the density. The sheer amount of young people, all of them doing the same thing, building an audience. Sophie's apartment is in Williamsburg, in a converted warehouse building. It's a studio, large room with exposed brick, large windows, and excellent natural light. The rent is $1,200 per month. The building houses 47 creators in 32 units. He visits on a Saturday in September, 3 months after she left LA. Most of my neighbors are doing YouTube, Sophie explains as she shows him around. That one's a fashion creator with 400K followers. That one does finance content. That one's a fitness coach. We talk about algorithm changes and sponsorship rates the way you probably talk about stock performance. The apartment is sparse but intentional. A ring light, a microphone, a white backdrop, a laptop. That's the entire setup. This is your office, Robert asks. This is everything, Sophie says. YouTube studio, TikTok studio, home bedroom, all the same. That's the advantage. No commute. No overhead. Just me and my laptop and the internet. They go to lunch at a cafe nearby. It's the kind of place Robert would expect to be empty at 1 p.m. on a Saturday, but it's packed. Young people with laptops. Young people filming themselves eating. Young people staring at phones. They're working, Sophie says, noticing his observation. Most of them are creators. That's why they're here. The free Wi-Fi, the nice aesthetic for background footage, the community. You're surrounded by people who are building the same thing you are. Sophie orders something called an acai bowl. Robert orders coffee. He's learned not to judge her food choices. So show me the numbers, he says. Show me how this is actually working. Sophie opens her laptop and pulls up a spreadsheet. Asterisk, Sophie, Chen. Creator income, August-September 2024. Income stream. Ad revenue. YouTube ad revenue. $1. 200. Mixed. Sponsors 100. 500. 1,500. Thousands. Austra chips 1,000 full thousands. Robert $40,100. Robert stares at the spreadsheet. These numbers are after tax? He asks. No, Sophie says. These are gross. I'm setting aside 30% for taxes and business expenses. So net is more like $700 this month, after accounting for taxes and the 10% I reinvest back into equipment and content. So you're actually making around $6,000 per month net? Right now, yes. But look at the growth trajectory. I've gone from $6,900 in August to $11,000 in September. If that compounds, I'll be at $20,000 per month by December, $40,000 by March, $80,000 by June. Assuming the growth continues, Robert says. What happens if it doesn't? Then I pivot, Sophie says. I've been thinking about this. I have multiple income streams, so if sponsorships dry up, I still have YouTube ad revenue. If YouTube changes the algorithm, I still have TikTok. If TikTok gets banned, I still have my email list and my Discord community. I'm not dependent on any single platform. Robert is quiet for a moment. Then he says, this is very different from what I do. It is, Sophie agrees. But is it worse? And that's the question he can't answer. The reckoning October brings the first crisis. Sophie's main platform is YouTube. She posts twice per week, long-form content about building a creator business, financial strategies for young people, interviews with other creators. Her audience has grown to 420,000. Her videos average 50,000, 100,000 views. Then the algorithm changes. She doesn't understand it at first. She notices her video views are lower. Then the sponsorship offers slow down. By the middle of the month, her income has dropped 40%. She calls him on a Wednesday evening. Her voice is shaking. Dad, I think I made a mistake. I think this was stupid. I should have taken the job at the ad agency like you wanted. Robert sits in his study, listening to his daughter cry on the phone, and he feels something shift inside him. Not vindication, empathy. Tell me what happened, he says. She explains the algorithm change, the platform shift, the uncertainty, the sudden drop in sponsorship offers. One video underperforms, and suddenly everyone thinks I'm not relevant anymore, she says. This is so fragile. This is so unstable. You were right. This was dumb. Robert thinks about his own career. The 18 months he spent rebuilding his portfolio after the 2008 crash. The terror of watching billions in client assets evaporate. The calls from investors asking if their money was safe. The sleepless nights. He'd never told Sophie about those nights. Sophie, listen to me, he says. Your income dropped 40%. My income dropped 70% in 2008. The difference is that you have multiple income streams and I had one. You have more resilience than I do. But it's still down, she says. Yes, he agrees. The strategy isn't perfect, but it's not wrong either. The question is, what do you do now? There's silence on the line. Then Sophie says, I need to diversify more. I've been relying too heavily on YouTube. I need to build my email list. I need to create a digital product, something that generates revenue independent of the algorithm. I need to be less dependent on any single platform. That sounds like wisdom, Robert says. It sounds like what you said on day one, Sophie says quietly. No, Robert says. It sounds like what you figured out on day one and I didn't believe. I'm sorry. The pivot by December, Sophie has launched 3 products. 1. Creator Accelerator Course, a 12-week course teaching people how to build an audience from Zizo, price $497. 3 and 40 units, revenue $169,000 before refunds. 2. Templates, scripts, and resources for content creation. Price is $97, one time, or 47 months. Subscription. Current subscribes, 9,600, 200. 3. Patreon community, direct support from her most engaged followers. Tier 1. Tier 2, access to private Discord. Tier 3, 100, one-on-one consulting. Current membership, 340 people. Monthly revenue, $8,500. Her total monthly income is now $28,000. Robert is sitting in his office when Sophie sends him the updated numbers. He stares at them for a long time. Then he calls her. Sophie, that's $336,000 annually. That's more than I made at your age. I know, Sophie says, and he can hear the smile in her voice. I'm scared to death that it will all disappear tomorrow. But also, it won't all disappear tomorrow because I have multiple income streams. If YouTube goes down, I have the course. If the course stops selling, I have Patreon. If Patreon dries up, I have sponsorships. The system is designed to fail gracefully, not catastrophically. That's not how traditional careers work, Robert says. I know, Sophie says. But traditional careers don't exist anymore either. You had a 40-year career with one company. I'm expecting to have a series of 6-month to 2-year projects, all happening simultaneously, all feeding into each other. Robert is quiet. Then he says, can I invest in your course? You want to invest in my business. I want to invest in your future, Robert says. And I want to understand how this actually works. The synthesis. By April of the next year, Sophie has made $180,000 in income. She's moved to a larger apartment, with it $800 per month, with a dedicated office space. She's hired a video editor, 2,000 mon. She's invested in better equipment, 5,000. She's started paying herself a salary, 4,000 monomorph, and putting the rest into savings. She asks Robert a question. What should I do with the money I'm saving? Robert sits across from her in her Brooklyn office. Sunlight streams through the windows. On the wall behind her is a mood board, her goals, her audience size projections, her revenue projections for the next 5 years. Before I answer, Robert says, tell me your goal. Financial independence, Sophie says without hesitation. I want to build enough passive income that I can choose what projects I work on, not because I need the money, but because I care about them. Robert nods slowly. That's a wise goal. And here's what I think. You've built velocity. You've proven you can generate income faster than most people. Now you need to build stability. He pulls out his own notebook, leather-bound, expensive, the kind of thing he's carried for 30 years. Here's what I did, he says. I built a career that generated cash flow. I took that cash flow and invested it in 3 things: real estate, stocks, and pension funds. The real estate appreciated. The stocks compounded. The pension grew. By the time I was 35, I had enough passive income that I could take more risks in my career because I wasn't dependent on my salary. Okay, Sophie says. So I should buy real estate? Not necessarily real estate, Robert says. But you should invest a portion of your income into assets that compound without you having to work. Dividend-paying stocks, index funds, real estate if you want the leverage. The goal is to create a separation between your active income and your passive income. Sophie pulls out her calculator. So if I'm making $180,000 per year active income, what percentage should I allocate to passive income?
That depends on your risk tolerance, Robert says.
But here's a framework. 40% into tax-advantaged retirement accounts, 30% into dividend-paying stocks, 20% into real estate down payment fund, 10% into cash reserves. That leaves you with enough to live on, reinvest in your business, and still build passive income streams. Sophie calculates. That's $72,000 into retirement, $54,000 into dividend stocks, $36,000 into real estate, $18,000 cash. And I'd keep $56,000 to live on and reinvest. Exactly, Robert says. By doing that for 5 years, you'd have approximately $360,000 in retirement accounts, $270,000 in dividend stocks generating maybe $10K, $15K per year, and a $180,000 down payment for a house. How much would I be worth at that point? Sophie asks. Robert does the math. If you were worth $300,000 in retirement funds, $300,000 in stocks, $300,000 in real estate, plus your ongoing business income, you'd have approximately $1 million net worth by age 27. Sophie stares at him. That's actually possible. It's not just possible, Robert says. It's likely, because you're combining my strategy with yours. You're using velocity to build capital, and then you're deploying that capital using my framework. The briefcase and the backpack, Sophie says. Exactly, Robert says. You move fast to generate capital. Then you anchor that capital in stability so it compounds. You're not choosing between my way and your way. You're using both. 5 years later, Sophie is 27 years old. She's sitting in her office in Brooklyn, a real office now, rented, in a shared workspace with 12 other creators. On her wall is a spreadsheet. The title reads, Net Worth Projection versus Actual. Asterisk, age 27. Retirement accounts, $300,000 in stocks, $300,000. Real estate, $300,000 down payment plus dollar. 2M property value. Current year income, $280,000. Asterisk total net worth, age 27. Retirement accounts, $340,000 dividend stocks, $340,000 real estate, $600,000 down payment plus 2Rs. 1M property value, 27M. Current year income, $420,000. Total net worth. She beat her own projection by $2.4 million. The video she's editing right now is titled, How I Built 36M Net Worth by 27, the hybrid strategy that actually works. Her audience is now 2.3 million subscribers across all platforms. Her course has sold 18,000 units. Her community membership is 4,200 people. Her real estate portfolio includes her primary residence in Brooklyn, plus a rental property in Atlanta. She's also hired a financial advisor. Not her father, that would be weird, but someone who understands both her active income and her passive income streams. Her father comes to visit. He's 60 years old now, thinking about the transition to semi-retirement. Your method is teaching everyone, Robert says, looking at one of her videos. Even the old guard is realizing the paradigm shifted. Yours built the foundation, though, Sophie says. If I hadn't listened to you about the boring stuff, the dividend stocks, the real estate, the tax-advantaged accounts, I'd still be one YouTube algorithm change away from financial ruin. Robert nods. And if I'd listened to you earlier, I would have realized that the corporate ladder I climbed doesn't exist anymore. The young people are smarter because they have no choice. You have to be adaptable. They sit in Sophie's office, her office, that she owns, and look out at the Brooklyn skyline. From her window, you can see the tops of other buildings, other people's lives happening in close quarters. But it's the density that makes it work. The proximity of others building, failing, pivoting, scaling. I want to ask you something, Robert says. When you started this, were you scared? Terrified, Sophie says. I was giving up a safe path to pursue something with no guarantee. I was never scared, Robert says. I was always confident, and I think that was a mistake. Maybe if I'd been scared, I would have built more resilience. You've built more real wealth in 5 years than I built in my first 15, because you built with uncertainty in mind. Sophie reaches over and squeezes her father's hand. You built the world I was born into. I'm just playing the game that exists in this world. We both did what we could with what we had. 10 years later, the lesson Robert Chen is at his retirement party. He's 65 years old. He spent 37 years in corporate finance. He's stepping back, but not stepping away. He's launching something new with Sophie, a financial advisory firm specifically designed for creators and entrepreneurs who are building the hybrid model. The firm's philosophy is simple. Velocity without stability is chaos. Stability without velocity is stagnation. The game is learning to have both. They work with creators who have built audiences, entrepreneurs who've launched businesses, investors who want to understand the new financial landscape. They teach the framework that Robert and Sophie developed together. Asterisk, years 1 to 3, build velocity. Generate aggressive income through audience, business, or investment growth. Don't worry about stability yet. Asterisk, years 3-7, create anchor. Invest 50-60% of aggressive income into compound assets. Dividend stocks, real estate, tax-advantaged accounts. Asterisk, years 7-20, compound and leverage. Let passive income grow while continuing to generate active income. Use the hybrid model to take bigger risks because you have a safety net. Asterisk, years 20, optionality. You have enough passive income that you can choose projects based on interest, not necessity. At the retirement party, one of Robert's old colleagues approaches him. So you're really leaving the firm? I'm really leaving, Robert says. But I'm not really retiring. I'm just starting something that matters more to me. Is that Sophie's influence? The colleague asks. Robert smiles. Completely. She taught me that the world changed faster than I realized, and that my job wasn't to resist that change. It was to understand it and help people navigate it. The colleague nods slowly, as if understanding something for the first time. That's wise. My daughter's trying to start a TikTok business too. Maybe I should take her seriously.
You should,
Robert says. Because she probably understands the world better than you do. Your job is to help her anchor that understanding in stability. The briefcase and the backpack. In Robert and Sophie's new office in Manhattan, there's a photo on the wall. It shows Robert in 1995, holding his leather briefcase, standing in front of his office building. And it shows Sophie in 2024, holding her backpack, standing in front of her apartment building in Brooklyn. Underneath the photo, there's a caption, "From briefcase to backpack. Same goal, financial independence, different tools. The synthesis is the strategy." A young creator comes in for a consultation, 23 years old, trying to figure out how to build both velocity and stability. Sophie sits down with her and opens a laptop. "Let me tell you about the hybrid model," she says. "It's not complicated, but it requires understanding that both ways of thinking about money are right." As Sophie explains, Robert listens from his office. He's amazed at how much his daughter has learned about not just building wealth, but teaching others to build it. And he realizes this is the real wealth, not the $3.6 million net worth, not the rental properties or the dividend stocks or the successful course sales. The real wealth is understanding that the briefcase generation and the backpack generation aren't in competition. They're evolutionary steps in how humans build and preserve resources. The future isn't Gen X or Gen Z, it's the integration of both. The briefcase teaches stability, patience, compound interest, and the value of being boring. The backpack teaches velocity, adaptability, leverage, and the courage to move fast. Together, they teach the only strategy that actually works. Build speed, anchor it in stability, let it compound. Repeat. This story illustrates the core thesis of the documentary through narrative. Robert's journey represents the Gen X paradigm. Stability, long-term thinking, institutional trust, delayed gratification. His success is real but built on a system that's disappearing. Sophie's journey represents the Gen Z paradigm. Velocity, optionality, audience leverage, aggressive wealth acceleration. Her success is real but requires constant adaptation. The synthesis. Neither generation wins. The optimal strategy combines both approaches, using fast income generation to fund slow growth assets, which eventually create the freedom to choose your own path. The emotional arc. With generational conflict. Father doesn't understand daughter's choices, moves through mutual learning, both understanding the other's strategy, and resolves with integration, working together on a new business. The core truth. The financial landscape has fundamentally changed. The old rules still apply: compound interest, real estate appreciation, diversification, but the new pathways are available to anyone with internet access. The generational advantage goes to those who understand both systems. You enjoy this? Please like and subscribe to Sterling Invest.